All right, welcome everyone to this explainer. Today we are taking a virtual trek out to the Nashik district of Maharashtra, India, specifically right near Manmad town. We're going to discover the sheer geographical ingenuity, the deep-rooted myths, and the intense military history of the Ankai and Tankai twin forts. If you're someone who loves seeing how ancient architecture flawlessly merges with rugged natural landscapes, you are absolutely going to love what we're looking at today. So let's just jump right in. Right out of the gate, I want you to think about this number, 3,000. The destination we're exploring today sits at a staggering elevation of over 3,000 feet, nestled way up in the magnificent Satmala Hills. I mean, just imagine the sheer logistical nightmare of building a massive, sturdy blackstone fortress at that altitude thousands of years ago. It is a literal marvel of ancient engineering and human willpower, and we're going to climb it together today, virtually, step by step. So, here's our roadmap for the ascent. We'll start with the invincible twin forts, then cover myths, monarchs, and empires, followed by scaling the 7 defenses, sacred caves, and royal ruins, and we'll wrap up with trekking Ankai Fort today.
Okay, Part 1. The Invincible Twin Forts. Before we can even really appreciate the history here, we have to understand the brilliant geographical strategy behind where these structures were built. You see, Ankai doesn't stand alone. It has this amazing architectural synergy with its sturdy twin, Tankai. Built on adjacent hills, these two fortresses were united by common fortifications to secure both peaks at the exact same time. Now, you might be wondering, why here? Why expend all that effort to fortify 2 neighboring mountains? Well, the answer comes down to economics and security. These joint forts functioned as one giant, impenetrable watchtower. They were perfectly positioned to observe and fiercely protect the highly lucrative ancient trading route running between Surat and Aurangabad. Basically, whoever controlled these twin peaks controlled the flow of wealth. And naturally, that kind of economic power drew the attention of gods and kings alike.
Moving right along to Part 2, Myths, Monarchs, and Empires.
Now, before we look at the historical records, we really have to acknowledge the deep spiritual roots of this site. According to local legend, there's a huge mythological connection to these hills. It's said that Ankai was the exact place where Lord Rama met Saint Agastya. And it was right here, on these elevated peaks, that Lord Rama was gifted a divine sword, bows, and arrows, literally the weapons he would ultimately use to defeat Ravana. It's pretty fascinating how the fort's physical military dominance is perfectly mirrored by this epic mythological empowerment. Stepping from myth back into recorded military history, you can clearly see the fort's strategic value across millennia. It's believed to have been constructed thousands of years ago when the region was firmly controlled by the Yadava Dynasty. But a fort this perfectly positioned, it never stays in one pair of hands forever. Throughout the medieval period, it became this highly contested prize, captured and held by the Marathas and then later the mighty Mughals. Finally, as India's geopolitical landscape shifted, the British Empire captured the fort in 1818. This wasn't just some building in the hills, it was a crown jewel passed between the greatest empires of the subcontinent, which begs the question, how exactly did those empires manage to capture it? Or better yet, how did the defenders hold them off for so long?
That brings us to Part 3, Scaling the 7 Defenses.
To really understand the defense here, you first need to learn this geographical term, perpendicular scraps. An Ankai hill is entirely surrounded by these steep, near-vertical rock faces. This natural geographical brilliance makes almost all sides of the hill quite literally impossible to climb. Mother Nature did most of the defensive work for the builders. They knew the mountain was completely unassailable from almost every angle, except for one glaring vulnerability, a narrow nose sticking out on the eastern side.
The absolute genius of this place is how the defenders weaponized that single eastern nose. If you were an invading army, here is the terrifying 4-step gauntlet you had to survive. Step 1, you're forced into a massive geographical choke point on that narrow eastern side. Step 2, you have to somehow breach not 1 but 7 remarkably strong fortification lines. Step 3, and this is where it gets truly wild, you face the final ascent. You must climb 60 to 70 winding stone steps, which, let's be honest, makes your gym stair climber look like a total joke, right? Because they are only broad enough for one single man at a time. Suddenly, your massive invading army is reduced to a single file line. And finally, step 4. As you're slowly creeping up those narrow steps, you have to evade defenders stationed above who can easily fight you off by dropping heavy stones, or worse, igniting massive piles of firewood strategically kept at the gateways to unleash a devastating fire attack down the stairs. It was a flawless, deadly trap. But just for a second, let's imagine you actually survive that terrifying 60-step climb and breach the final gate. What actually awaits you at the summit?
Let's explore that in Part 4, Secret Caves and Royal Ruins.
The contrast between the aggressive, violent military architecture below and the tranquil life up on the plateau is just stunning. Starting down at the foothills, you've got 7 Jain caves spanning 2 levels. The top 5 feature these beautiful idols of Lord Mahavir, while the bottom 2 are covered in intricate carvings. Right at the entrance of Ankai itself, you're greeted by the Brahmani cave, featuring idols of Jai and Vijay, the gatekeepers of Lord Vishnu. Once you're actually inside the fort, it's like a giant puzzle. You'll find this curious domed building that historians believe was an ancient treasure chamber. To sustain life during those long sieges, they carved massive granaries, up to 15 meters deep, straight into the solid rock. And perhaps most impressively, at the far western end, you'll find the majestic ruins of Awada, which is a royal residence, complete with a massive pond situated right out front.
Now, water up here wasn't just for drinking, it held incredible spiritual significance. Right in the middle of Ankai lies a sizable square-shaped water tank with an ancient sculpture right in the center. The water here is considered totally holy, and it's been a long-standing tradition for pilgrims to actually bathe in this tank before paying their respects at the nearby Agastya Rishi cave. There's also the Kashi Pond, which uniquely features a tulsi pot right in the middle. The spiritual resonance of this plateau is very much alive today. In fact, Hindu rock-cut shrines on the eastern side are still inhabited by hermits, and the fort is also home to the most Baba Dargah. It really is a quiet, beautiful convergence of faiths, sitting high above the clouds.
But we can't forget where we are. Despite the peace of the temples and the holy waters, experts believe that over 40 heavily armed cannons once protected this very plateau, pointing straight down at the valleys below. It's wild to think about, because if you visit today, not a single one remains. 40 massive cannons, literally just lost to the passage of time and shifting empires. All right, so we've explored the history and the ruins. Let's talk about how you can actually make this virtual trek a reality.
Section 5. Trekking Ankai Fort today.
If you're feeling inspired to pack your bags, here's how you actually get there. Thankfully, the local government has maintained excellent accessibility. If you're flying, the nearest airport is in Aurangabad, which is about 122 kilometers away. From there, it's just a simple bus ride to Manmad town and then a quick cab. If you're more of a train person, Manmad Junction is super connected. You can take a direct train there and then just grab an 8-kilometer taxi ride straight to the fort. And for you road trip fans, there is a direct drive with fantastic road connectivity right up to the base of the hill, so no terrible suspension-ruining potholes to worry about. Once you arrive at the base near Ankai village, here's what you can actually expect from the trek itself. It's roughly a half-hour hike to the top. It's generally considered a medium difficulty trek, mainly because, thankfully, despite those terrifying historical steps, there are no sheer steep slopes or actual rock climbing required today. If you want the absolute best experience, though, definitely plan your visit during the monsoons. The rain brings the whole rugged landscape to life with this incredible lush greenery. Whether you're a huge history buff wanting to trace the steps of empires, someone who just loves nature, or a photographer looking to capture stunning architectural ruins and breathtaking views of the surrounding villages, this is a perfect weekend getaway. It is a fantastic way to escape the noise and the pollution of the city. Ankai is just one of those rare places where geography dictated destiny. It's a spot where ancient myths perfectly blend with brutal military might, and where the echoes of lost empires still resonate through hollowed-out caves and empty granaries. So as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with one final thought. When you finally make the trip, as you stand at the bottom staring up that narrow, single-file choke point carved right into the black stone, can you conquer the 60 steps of Ankai? Thank you all so much for joining me on this incredible ascent today. Keep learning, keep exploring, and I'll see you in the next one.